Hello, this is Shakuntala Gupta with Reading Room. In this edition, a book on Indian temples, a volume that makes a comparison of the wildlife in the North and South Poles, and to begin, a new book on the SAF called Fighting Fit. Sounds which could very well emanate from an Indian temple, which is the hub of a lot of activity, spiritual and otherwise. Like churches, mosques and pagodas, the temples of India have been a driving force in the lives of the Indians and a source of constant fascination for the tourist. In his book, All About Hindu Temples, Swami Harshanandji, president of the Ramakrishna Mission in Bangalore, India, touches on various aspects of Indian temples, ranging from architecture and iconography to temple arts and crafts. A typical temple, he says, has a sanctum sanctorum with the image inside, a passage-like structure, a big room for the congregation, a flag post, and another post outside for the lighting of the lamp. Well, I spoke to Swami Harshanandji about some of the points raised in the book, and he first told me about the typical steps in the building of a temple.
First, a good spot is to be selected for that. Then after the spot is selected, the whole thing is physically cleaned, leveled, and then it has to be ceremonially cleaned also. Then the actual construction starts as per the design given by the architect and engineer. And one of the things that is normally observed is that all the objects which are to be used in the construction of the temple, they must be new. They should not have been used elsewhere. And practically every bit of this material which is specially prepared for the occasion is also worshipped before being used in construction. So this way the whole construction comes up, and once the temple construction is over, the second thing to be done is installing the image. Meanwhile, the image will have been sculptured and then kept separately, and later on it is brought and installed in the temple ceremonially. And there are other rituals connected with the dedication of the temple and also infusing life into the image.
You talked about images. Could you touch briefly on iconography or the science of preparing these images?
Yes, that itself is a very big science. Murti Shilpa Shastra, as it is called, iconography. And a lot of work has been done by the modern scholars also upon this. And generally what they do is, these murtis have to be prepared according to a particular proportion. And the standard measurement, depending upon which the proportion is stated, is the dimension of the palm of the hand. Say from the bottom of the palm up to the tip of the middle finger. This is taken as one standard dimension. This is called tala. Tala is the name given to this, and the system is called the tala system. Certain images are to be, the total height of the image has to be 9 talas. That is the gods, for instance. Then if we are going to sculpture the images of human beings, it should be 8, something like that. There are different proportions recommended for different types of images. And every part of the image is also described in detail, taking the tala as the fundamental unit. The tala is further divided into angulas, smaller units, and practically once it is decided that a particular image has to be carved or sculptured, suppose it is the image of a particular deity, then all the details of every bit of the body of the deity, they are described in the Shastras. According to that, only the sculpturing can be done. The artist will have only freedom for the details, ornamentation and other things, but the whole pattern is completely set by the iconographical scriptures.
What about the appearance of the deities? Who decides on that?
Well, appearance of the deity also is described in what are called as dhyana shlokas. See, we don't believe that they are just the products of our figment of imagination. The forms of the various deities have been revealed to the rishis in their meditation. So depending upon the vision they have had, they have composed what are called as dhyana shlokas. So these shlokas are hymns. They give the exact description of the deity. So the sculptor who prepares the images has to follow the instructions given in these dhyana shlokas.
Some of these temples are very old. So how do they upkeep these temples? How do they make sure that the deities are in good condition?
Well, this is one of the jobs with which the archaeological department in India is very much concerned. So they are trying to learn from West and other countries how the old archaeological monuments can be preserved in a scientific manner. So cleaning and then repairing and then applying preserving coatings and all these things they are doing. But most important thing is protecting these monuments from the vandalism of the people who come there as visitors. Many times they do not know the value of the structure or the images, and sometimes they tamper with them.
Now, in the north of India, there are some sun temples, aren't there? What is the significance of a sun
Well,
temple?
I do not know much about them, but what I surmise that a sun temple is a temple dedicated to the sun god, and sun god in the Puranas is described as being seated in a chariot driven by 7 horses, and the charioteer is Aruna, is a handicapped person, if I can use that word. So when a sun temple is built, generally the whole temple is built in this model, not as a separate temple keeping the sun god inside the shrine of the deity.
What kind of influence has the temple had on Indian social life? It's not merely a place of worship, am I right?
All these centuries, the temple has exercised an enormous influence on the socio-religious life of the Hindu society. In fact, people are expected to perform important ceremonies of their families in the temples, and then whenever they have any problems and difficulties, they go to the temples and vow before the deities that they will offer certain things and perform special worships if their desires are fulfilled. Like that, the temple has come into their family life and emotional life.
I read in your book that in the old days, temples used to have what we call devadasis or dancers. What was their role in the temple?
Well, probably the whole thing began with a very noble idea. That is, if I have something and something which I love and like much, I should dedicate it to the Lord. So people perhaps thought that it would be good to dedicate their daughters to the deity, and the ceremony or procedure used to be that the particular daughter would be married to the deity would be her husband. So her whole life was to be spent in pleasing the Lord of the universe, whom she has chosen, or her parents has chosen her as her husband. So all her artistic talents, dancing, singing, and preparing garlands and temple services used to be done by her for the deity. So this was a mode or a method of sadhana for her. But gradually the institution deteriorated into that of prostitution. And now the modern consciousness also, conscience of the people has been roused against it. The system is practically abolished.
Most of these temples have priests living in them. An interesting thing to note is that the Hindu priest in a typical temple, he doesn't have to take a vow of celibacy. He can be a householder with a family.
Yes. In fact, this is one of the special things we have to note in the Hindu religion. The Hindu priests in Hindu temples, they need not be monks. In fact, monks are not expected to do ritualistic worship at all. They are above this. Ritualistic worship can be done only by the brahmacharis or the householders.
Why is this so?
That is the way the scriptures have prescribed it. Say, as far as the monk is concerned, the monk has already finished all these things. Generally, the monk takes to the monk's life as a fourth stage in life. So he has to keep himself completely free for contemplation upon God. So at that stage, even engaging oneself in ritualistic worship may be an obstacle to inner life of meditation.
Swami Harshananda, author of the book All About Hindu Temples, a volume which gives us a better understanding not only of the priesthood, but of the significance of the deities and the socio-cultural influence of the temple in an individual's life. This is where we close the program today. Next week at the same
वीडियोस बनाने हैं, फिल्मोरा है ना।